projects are going to be in the fire barrier category, where we see a slew of applications on the right-hand side on page 123. So again, that's kind of this document as a quick summary. It can be very, very helpful when I'm doing my follow-ups across DC. When I walk into an architect's office, they never know my name. They call me Yellow Book Guy. So I take that for what it's worth. It might be helpful unless if you work through these different areas of fire separation regularly. And with that, we'll start. I'd like to just talk through a couple of these projects that I was referencing at a moment ago. We'll go and get started with the lunch and learn then. I should also mention, if anybody has any questions throughout our time here, don't hesitate to stop me. I'd be happy to elaborate on any concept and drill down on any specific thing that might be confusing. Topic of conversation today is a little bit different. So we've been talking thus far about steel hourly rated door systems that are able to be used within fire walls or fire barrier walls. But there's an entire other product line in the McKeon lineup that's fire and smoke rated curtains. The problem though, there's a lot of confusion that's being disseminated to the architectural design community related to the capabilities of fire and smoke rated curtains. Arbitrary language that's being thrown out saying, hey, we got a 3-hour fire rated curtain or a 2-hour fire rated curtain, but manufacturers forgetting or conveniently forgetting to not specify under what testing standard that product was tested under. And what we'll find is that the testing standard is really a lighthouse to tell us, well, what level of fire separation does this product provide, and ultimately where we can't place it. So that's the goal of this presentation, is get back to the basics of what the building code has to say about fire and smoke rated curtains, and ultimately where we can't place them through the lens of the building code. So you picked an unfortunate, at least we got Chinese food, right, to get us through. Hopefully this can be very helpful though as it relates to these different areas of separation. Feel free to follow us on social media. We're on all platforms, including Instagram, not TikTok quite yet. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I've been advocating for it, but nobody wants to do it at the company, so I don't think it's very successful. Registered AIA provider, make sure you sign in and get your HSW CEU for your attendance here today, and a copyrighted presentation as well. Learning objectives, we basically covered them, but nonetheless, so a lot of the confusion lies is that there are numerous fire door testing standards, and just to arbitrarily throw out, well, we have a 3-hour fire rated curtain undercuts. What about UL10A? There's also UL10B, 10C, and UL10D. So overall, there's 4 fire door testing standards that possibly some manufacturer could comply with. So if we don't apply a standard to the product, we don't know what level of fire separation that product will provide. So that's really the goal of this presentation, specifically to analyze the testing standards of UL10B versus UL10D and the significant differences between. If you have no idea what I'm talking about thus far, you've come to a good spot. So what is a fire protective curtain assembly? So we'll start at a very base level. We're working out of the 2021 edition of the IBC. We've extracted the language out of the 21 code and put it into this presentation, so you folks are acquainted with what's coming down the line. So a fire protective curtain assembly is an assembly consisting of a fabric curtain, bottom bar guides, coil operating, and closing system. I hated definitions like that in college, so I was more a picture book learner. But this is a better kind of picture diagram axon view of what we're looking at here. You're looking at this thing, you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's just a rated roll-up door. You'd be exactly correct, except what's being housed in that coil box overhead. Thank you so much for doing that. I don't know who's doing it. Thank you so much. What's being housed in that coil box overhead is going to be much slimmer in terms of its profile and clearance requirements than we would traditionally see with a rolling steel fire door. And oftentimes that's where the design discussions stop. What you're telling me, we get a 3-hour fire rating with a 6-inch fire curtain. Let's get to detailing, baby. But actually what we found is that the size of the coil box overhead is usually directly commensurate with the level of fire separation the product provides. So don't ever just think that, oh my gosh, it's a too good to be true scenario. It probably isn't, unfortunately. So that's just kind of get us on the right track. What is this product made of? Another kind of meaningless definition. I brought a couple of samples along with me of this product. So this is the exact product that we're discussing here today. I'll pass it around the room. Make sure you grab it in the center. People complain that they get stainless steel shards in their fingers and then they get injured. So this is the product that we're talking about here today. And oftentimes, design teams will put this up against the light, they fold it over on themselves, and they ask themselves, oh boy, you're telling me this thin, flexible thing can be used as an opening protective in lieu of a traditional rolling steel fire door? And again, the answer is yes, but with a big asterisk beside it. So we'll jump back into the code language. Approved fire, so this is out of section 716, particularly 716.4 of the 21 code. Approved fire protective curtain assembly shall be constructed of materials tested without hose stream and in accordance with UL 10D. So if you've ever worked CA on a project or worked through submittals or the design of a wide span opening protective, you've probably seen these UL tests thrown around. You're not too privy to what they mean, what they are. But UL 10D is relatively a brand new testing standard as it relates to fire door systems at large. UL 10D was created in the mid-2000s specifically for fire and smoke-rated curtains. These smoke curtain products originated in the European markets. They came over to the United States in the mid-2000s. And a lot of the code practitioners, people in the regulatory arena were doing exactly what you're doing, folding this thing over on itself, holding up to the light and asking, there's no way that this thin, flexible smoke curtain product is going to pass under the United States IBC requirements of UL 10B. So in an effort to distinguish this product from traditional rolling steel fire doors, it was given a brand new test known as UL 10D, under which there is no hose stream test. We'll talk about why that's so significant in just a quick second. So then what is the scope of UL 10D? The scope statement for any of these testing standards really serves as more of an abstract statement for the standard at large. It's kind of a summation. And so we'll jump down to the middle portion of the scope to find horizontally or vertically oriented fire protective curtain assemblies provide, danger Will Robinson, non-structural separation only, and are not intended to be substituted for hourly rated opening protectives. Anytime you hear opening protective, that just means a fire door. Opening protectives tested for fire endurance and hose stream performance. So a quick summary, when fire and smoke rated curtains came to the United States, they were given a brand new test. That test is known as UL 10D. And we find out that fire and smoke rated curtains provide non-structural separation, got it. And they also don't provide fire endurance and hose stream performance based off of what this says. You can't substitute a smoke curtain for products that have been tested for fire endurance and hose stream performance. So we're kind of given a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but we don't have, the jigsaw thing in totality. So we have to understand then what products offer fire endurance and hose stream performance. Well, that actually comes from what we know as UL 10B as in boy. We were just talking about UL 10D as in dog. Now we're talking about an entirely new standard, which is corresponded also in NFPA 252 to the same exact testing standard. And so what we're going to do is walk through the UL 10B test and the UL 10D as in dog test and see if the similarities are, but also the differences as well. So UL 10B, this was created conversely in the early 1900s to test rolling steel fire doors. And it's the same exact parameters that we're still utilizing in 2025 to test these products. So this gray vertical line represents a fire shutter, a 12-foot by 13-foot test specimen, and it's being burned in an 1800-degree furnace for whatever hourly rating the manufacturer is trying to achieve. To keep it simple, all of our steel fire shutters carry a 3-hour fire rating under this standard. So we'll kind of keep it simple again. So for 3 hours, this fire door is going to get burned in the furnace. Heat transfer can be unlimited. We don't have to stop the heat. All we have to do is stop the flash or flame through the fire shutter. And if you get past that first component of UL 10B, congratulations, you're halfway through. To get the rating that you burn for, so again, we burn this fire shutter for 3 hours. To get that aforementioned 3-hour fire rating, we have to pass what's called a hose stream test. And what they do is they roll this product out after being burned for 3 hours, and they spray it down with a 45 to 55 PSI hose in a zigzag pattern across the face of the assembly. Because I know this is such a stimulating discussion here today, I have to really rely on question and answers. So what do you think that we're doing, right? We burn a fire shutter for 3 hours. What do you think that we're doing by testing with that hose? What do you think that we're doing? What are we testing with the hose stream? Anybody?
Structural integrity.
Shock, is that what you said?
Structural integrity.
That's perfect, exactly. Structural integrity. Oftentimes people will say, well, the fireman's going to run into the building, might spray down to the fire, or might hit the door. So we want to make sure that the correct answer is structural integrity. Thank you so much. So to get the rating that you burn for, you have to pass the structural integrity test. But the question is that I want you to put in the back of your mind, well, what happens if you fail the structural integrity hose stream test? Do you think that you get any type of fire rating whatsoever? We won't answer that right now, but we will in just a quick second. So to kind of summarize from where we've just come, under UL 10B, we burn a fire shutter for 3 hours, pass the hose stream test, we get a 3-hour fire rating. But what if we burn for 3 hours and we fail the hose stream test? What rating do we get? Doesn't make a lot of sense. 20-minute fire rating under UL 10B. We'll cover that in just a quick second. But obviously, there are other testing standards out there. There's the UL 10A, there's UL 10B, there's UL 10C, which is on my screen but not being transposed on this one. There we go. UL 10C. So that's for positive latching swing type fire doors, not germane to our conversation today. But remember, there's our good friend, UL 10D, created in about 2007. That was specifically for fire and smoke rated curtains. And the parameters of this test are eerily similar to UL 10B. We still burn it in an 1800-degree furnace. Obviously, the heat transfer is still unlimited because it's a door and not a wall. And what the only difference is how they contain some of the heat, fire, and smoke that's created from the fire, and they apply some of it against the smoke curtain. So obviously, that's a smoke curtain that's installed in that's being burned in the chamber now. But the primary difference between this test and the test that we were just looking at is if we burn this smoke curtain for 3 hours under 10D, congratulations, you have a 3-hour smoke curtain as long as you get past this one and only component. Okay, well, what's the difference? The difference is that there's no hose stream test. So there's no structural integrity test for fire and smoke rated curtains, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's very, very significant as it relates to where and where we can't place these products, and ultimately as a guidepost of the capabilities of it. Don't get lost in all of the minutia. 10B, 2-component test. You have to pass both to get the rating. 10D, 1-component test. We'll talk about the hose stream now and why that's significant for just a brief second. So NFPA 252 requires all opening protectives to comply with an integrity test known as the hose stream to get a fire rating greater than 20 minutes. There's that 20 minutes again. So now I have to broach that topic. The 20 minutes is basically 2 data points. The first data point is that it takes about 20 minutes for these fire shutters to be radiating full heat from the 1800-degree burn. The other data point is that on average, on the spectrum of a single-story structure all the way to a high-rise structure, the average on that spectrum takes about 20 minutes to egress out of those facilities on average. So it takes those 2 data points and says, you know what? If a fire and smoke-rated curtain, if a fire shutter passes half the test under UL 10B, fails the hose stream, it's not structural, but we'll still give it a 20-minute fire rating because of what we just mentioned, the time it takes for the door to heat up, as well as we were talking about a second ago. So again, 20 minutes is the fire protective rating for a door that doesn't pass the hose stream test. And thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. Appreciate your time. So to reiterate, the building code does allow an opening protective rating of 20 minutes for doors that don't pass the integrity test. But again, we have to understand, well, what is the hose stream test for? We're testing the structural integrity of the door, as the guy mentioned a second ago. Thank you so much. But what do fire and smoke rated curtains provide? Non-structural separation. Okay, so now our wheels are starting to turn. Okay, so that means they can't pass the hose stream test in essence. And what does that ultimately mean? Go to the back end of the scope statement. They're not intended to be substituted for fire doors that have passed the hose stream test and the fire endurance test, which we found out a moment ago is UL 10B. So obviously UL 10B, UL 10D as in dog aren't the same testing standard, and we can't say a 3-hour fire curtain tested under 10B is the same as one that's tested under UL 10D based off of all of this evidence. But you probably were like me. Back when I first started, I said, guys, why didn't we just get one of our fire curtains, test it under 10B, and administer the hose stream test and see if it passes? Why do we want to deal with all this UL 10D nonsense anyway? It's a wasted test. And I was quickly lambasted for my ridiculous thought, because that was the question that they had asked as well. UL10D had come out there saying, well, why don't we just rely on the age-old fire door benchmark, the UL10B standard, and we'll pass our version of the fire and smoke rated curtain. So this was our product. We had burned it for 3 hours in a 10B test. So you're thinking, crap, we've already got a 3-hour 10D fire rated shutter. We're in good shape. But again, you have to pass the hose stream test to get the rating that you burn for. So I want you guys to tell me, does this product pass, and what rating does it acquire based off of its performance? Hopefully it's not very confusing. I don't know, maybe it will be. This thing administered so much more heat than they were traditionally used to from traditional rolling steel type fire doors. Normally there's some level of heat stoppage from the chamber into the fire and smoke rated shutter. It's playing on my screen again. It's not playing up here. Let's see if it goes this time. Exactly how I planned this. So excited. Here we go. Start running. All right, we got action. Again, 1800-degree furnace is what they're testing the door within. See the technicians pushing out that fire and smoke rated curtain. And to reacquaint you, we're testing to see whether or not this product passes the hose stream test. Any penetration of water through the smoke curtain, it fails. You guys tell me, what do you think? Does it pass, and what rating does it acquire? And this was the first day on the job for the photographer here. It's very clear. I think he was doing it on a Nokia flip phone, if I'm not. Hey, this was 07, so times were tough back then. It's just awful. It's the best we got. But yeah, what do we think? 45 to 55 PSI hose. Correct. It's 20 minutes. You would be surprised how hard it is to get that answer out of some teams. And that's not just this product. That's 99% of the fire and smoke rated curtain industry. They hide behind the veil of UL10D that doesn't require that hose stream test, keeps their fingers crossed that nobody asks whether or not it passes the hose stream, and they proceed with UL10D. But as we saw in the scope statement, UL10D just points you back to UL10B as in boy, where you have to pass the hose stream test. So anytime you hear a manufacturer saying, we've got a 3-hour fire rated curtain, make sure you specify, hey, is that under UL10B as in boy or UL10D as in dog? Once they pick their jaws up off the floor that an architect knows fire door testing standards, they'll be like, well, it's 10D, but it doesn't really matter. It's fine. It'll pass no problem. But we'll talk about how successful it does pass in just a few minutes. You have to be very, very careful in this industry related to fire and smoke rated curtain. So then where does the code say that the 20-minute rated 99% of the industry can be used? Well, we can never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, never, ever use a traditional fire and smoke rated curtain in a firewall or fire barrier wall, but we do see it 20-minute rated openings in fire partitions as well as 20-minute rated openings in smoke. So there are a few applications in which we can use the 99% of the fire and smoke rated curtain industry. And I'm sure I did such a great job of burying the 99% of the industry. Okay, what are you leading on with? Well, so this is where we were as an industry and as a manufacturer from 2007 up until 2021. And between that, over a decade time frame, we had done so much R&D, and we finally felt comfortable after getting the approvals from Intertech and testing this product internally and sending it off to the laboratory. We're excited that we're the only manufacturer in the industry that offers a UL10B as in boy listed fire shutter that can be used within a 2-hour rated fire wall or 2-hour fire barrier wall. and you're reading this and you're saying, but it says 90 minutes. You don't even know your own slides. Actually, there's never a 2-hour fire door in any of the code. If you're working out of a 2-hour wall, it always needs a 90-minute fire rating on the door. It's a common area of confusion, understandably so. So a 2-hour wall needs a 90-minute rated door, which is the rating that this product carries. They're not very creative, McKeon. They call it a rolling curtain shutter. You come out with this revolutionary technology. You say, well, it's kind of like a smoke curtain, but it's kind of like a fire shutter. We'll just combine the two. So it's a curtain shutter is what they call it. It's not very unique, but that's okay. It is what it is. 90-minute 10B, and it passes the UL 1784 smoke and draft rating as well. And so the linchpin for this product is that hose stream test. We saw what happened with the hose stream test on the fire and smoke rated curtain originally. Gosh, that was a pretty easy problem to identify. And where the rubber meets the road with the product is that the model FSFD, which is our traditional rolling steel fire door that we've been selling since the 1940s, in a 20 by 10 opening, it's going to need a 16-inch coil box that weighs 2,800 pounds. Now, in the same opening with the D400, which is this 90-minute 10B product, needs an 8-inch coil box that weighs 700 pounds. So the trickle-down effects of that can be pretty momentous as it relates to the clearances, as well as the weight, miscellaneous steel, metals, et cetera, to mount the shutter, et cetera. But again, I won't go through. If you want to, I can send you this diagram. I don't feel like I have the capabilities or the credentials to explain the composition. I'm more of a really straightforward kind of guy. I asked for a sample of the D400 to pass around like I did with that. And they said, yeah, we'll kill you before we'll share that. So apparently I can't do that. But this is where we were. Again, this is 2021. It's COVID. We're, masked up in our houses. Everyone's freaking out still, understandably so, over COVID. But we roll out this product. And we go through, it's like an hour-long webinar. And then I just asked really stupid questions. I said, guys, do we have a video of the product passing the hose stream test? We had that great video that really told the story of why it's 20 minutes before. Do we have a video of this product passing? And you would have thought I asked for them to explain quantum theory. It was just the most befuddling question to them. And I said, we'll get back to you on that. So fortunately, somebody did have their iPhone. I'll tell you, the camera quality has improved over the decades, let me tell you. But maybe next time we'll get it to do it in landscape. I asked for so much. Nonetheless, this kind of shows us the full breadth of the ASTM E226 standard. And yes, the hose stream test is its own standard. So if the other fire and smoke rated curtain had lasted long enough, we would have seen how long this test is. But you have to get sprayed down with that hose for about 1.5 minutes. And again, firemen's hoses are known to knock people down because that pressure is so intense. And so you can kind of see an idea of what it takes to be able to pass that hose stream test. It's not necessarily just a garden hose by any means. And they have to do the full perimeter of the door and then zigzag in between. So that's this product. We're pretty excited about it because it's listed under UL 10B for 90 minutes. It really applies to the regulatory approvals process significantly because it's able to be used in every wall of the IBC except a 3-hour fire wall or 3-hour fire barrier wall. Every other wall within the code, it's able to be used within. So it gives us a lot of new opportunities to place this as an opening protective within our fire rated applications. We've been fortunate to have dozens of installations across the DMV because, again, it's 10B listed. This is one of the more recent ones. We did Choice Hotels up in Bethesda at 915 Meeting Street, part of the Pike and Rose development. Choice Hotels had a multi-floor tenant fit out, and they used this within a horizontal exit. So they had a rolling curtain shutter, about 30 feet wide there, and a pair of hold open doors at the corridor side here. So they wanted the intercontinuity between the amenities area and the conference room. It looks out, it's like on the 15th floor looking out over the skyline. So they wanted to keep that sight line wide open. Could you imagine how different this would have looked if they had just put drywall there and swing doors within the opening? But again, about 30 feet wide, about 12 feet tall, keeps it nice and open. And that's in Montgomery County, which is notorious for being a very strict jurisdiction and in terms of getting these wide span opening protectives passed. This is at UMD, so University of Maryland. This is at the 9 at College Park. So I'm sure we are familiar with the different requirements within R2s, but nonetheless, if we can't have two-story openings opening onto a residential corridor. But they had a two-story opening here. So what they utilized were these D400 products at each one of the openings at a two-story landing area overlooking the amenities area at the apartment complex there. So there's just a couple of installs that we've been able to get out to and get the professional photographer to do it. Me, I'm not a professional photographer by any means. Smoke and draft perimeter curtains. So simultaneous with the D400, we came out with also a perimeter smoke rated curtain as well, which doesn't have near the level of applicability as the D400 because it's only 1784 smoke and draft listed. Again, not fire or smoke or not fire rated whatsoever, not even 20-minute, but it does carry a UL 1784 smoke rating, which is all that two-story convenience openings require out of NFPA 101. If you've worked on a project, government or state funded, probably picked your way through NFPA 101. So we have smoke rated openings and those types of projects. And really the benefit with this one is that there's no corner post detail. So basically you could turn a 90-degree curve and close that full length of the opening and all stay self-contained. So you don't have to have a corner post, side guides. And at the corner there is basically a zipper. I wish I could say it was more sophisticated than that, but it's exactly what it is. And this was a very clean application that we did down in the University of West Georgia, and Florida, notorious NFPA 101 areas. So they had a two-story opening there, columnless type condition, perfect solution with the two-story smoke curtain product that's all interconnected. So to kind of summarize our time here, I've got about 30 minutes left. Wow, I can take my time. Normally I'm right up against the wall here. So instead of talking about the many areas where we can use the 90-minute rated UL 10B product, we'll talk about where we can use 100% of the smoke curtain industry. So 20-minute rated openings as well as smoke rated openings. So this would be a great time to get your night mask and put it on, lean your seat back and fall asleep because that's what that Chinese food wants you to do about this time. R2 occupancies, half-hour rated corridors, 20-minute rated doors, and no two-story openings are the passive requirements within R2s. These are some local projects that we've worked on. So this is at a Sunrise Senior Living Facility. This is in Sunrise of Fairfax. So they had kind of instead of having a pair of double egress hold open doors, they said, you know, you'd rather have that open continuity going down the corridor instead of having senior citizens trying to, navigate through those swing doors, running into them, et cetera. This is a little bit cleaner of a solution to keep it nice and open there. And then at the center of this smoke curtain, it offers an egress door going through it. You can't really see it on this screen. You can see it better on that one over there. But this acts as a traditional 3070 type door. Along the vertical edge of the curtain is a Velcro liner. Along the bottom edge is a weighted bottom bar. An individual push against the smoke curtain, it pivots out 90 degrees, and then the weighted bottom bar brings it back to the closed position. So that's good. Bugging out on me. Can you guys look this way? Is that too much to ask? All right, we're going to do, unless it affected everybody online. Hopefully everyone online can still see it. We're going to keep it on. Everyone online. Fingers crossed. We'll get your credit no matter what. Don't worry about it. This is in the same Sunrise facility. So this is down the hallway a little bit ways. They have all these unique ways of describing spaces like this. You and I would just call this like a room. They call this like a bistro. And so this is where all the senior citizens play bridge and do all this stuff. So they're all hanging out in here, and they wanted that open continuity going down this corridor here, about a 12-foot wide opening with that smoke curtain style product. They didn't need egress through it like we were just looking at in the corridor. This is a better solution just to keep that sight line nice and open. And that guide reveal is also pretty slim. Only about a 1/4 of an inch, roughly 1/2 inch guide detail reveal, but only a 20-minute rated opening as we've been talking about. Corridor vertical opening separation. Here's another 2-story opening. What I like to mention within this application are what's listed on the bottom bar of that vertical coiling door. You're probably looking at that sofa and you're saying, man, this curtain's going to fall right on that sofa. People are going to die. No, fortunately, that sofa was bolted into the ground, so we were okay. The labels on the bottom bar, a lot of the questions, again, I'm a pretty practical guy myself, at least I consider myself to be. My wife probably didn't think so, but nonetheless, I would look at this thing and think, you're saying that there's all these manufacturers that misrepresent the capabilities of this product. How do they do that? How are they able to install these products and applications where they simply don't meet code? Well, ultimately, you can fabricate these in your backyard if you want to, right? You can get something that kind of quasi looks it. But the only difference between this product and some kind of back of house, backyard made product are these. On the bottom bar of that assembly, you have to have a label. The label is normally a manufacturer's label, and that's fine. Anybody can put a manufacturer's label. The one that you want to look for is that red one right there. See, that's third-party issued. It's a requirement out of Chapter 7. If you don't have a label on the bottom bar of your opening protective, you can put your shower curtain in the space. The fire marshal doesn't care. You have to have that label. And I can't tell you how many times on projects in DC, specifically DC, that's typically the problem. Maryland, outer edges of Virginia, not necessarily, but DC, it always seems to be where these smoke curtains get specified into hourly rated walls that are 20-minute rated. Yours truly goes through the RFI process. I'm sure everybody's stoked to get a slew of RFIs on a Friday afternoon. And one of them sometimes is me. I shoot over an RFI and say, hey, there's a 20-minute rated smoke curtain that's specified into this hourly rated wall. Maybe we should take a look at this. Here's the 10B, here's the 10D. Let's see the differences and make it a change here. And I can't tell you how many times where the architectural design team didn't make that change. And ultimately, the 20-minute rated smoke curtain was specified and installed within the application. Happens all the time, and code officials don't even think to look for it at right around CO time. But sometimes, and it's happening a lot more recently, product gets installed, fire marshal is walking the job site, testing all the overhead coiling products, and the system comes from the ceiling, no problem, but there's no label from a certified national testing facility on that bottom bar, which basically means that you've installed your shower curtain in the application. The label certifies that the product that you folks have detailed in and that we've provided meets the integrity of the code, ultimately for the safety of the public. So if there's no label, we have no idea what the capabilities of the product are. Fire marshals that are worth their salt will request the general contractor to rip that out of the soffit and have us or another manufacturer retrofit a product into the space. And before 2021, we would have to do one of those 16-inch high coil boxes within a space like that, where originally it was only detailed in a 7-inch coil box. And you can imagine the trickle-down effects of that. 6 to 8 weeks fabrication, lead time, shop drawings, coordination meetings. The architect looks like they have egg on their face because they had the RFI sitting in their lap to change out the product. Whoops, I guess I missed that one. It's a huge, huge nightmare, and I wish I could tell every architect in the DC area that works on commercial construction to be asking for these labels on the bottom bars of all of your products at the shop drawing space. If you don't have that label, you might get by, sure, no problem at all, but man, it could be a huge, huge nightmare. And ultimately, the worst part about it is that the owner has to pay for 2 products: the smoke curtain that should have never been installed in the first place, and the fire shutter that meets the integrity of the code. So again, the takeaway: if you work with McKeon, great, can't wait. If you don't, that's totally fine. Just make sure you're asking for those labels on the bottom bar of the opening protective. I2 occupancy. So smoke rated corridors and doors, no 2-story openings. I don't think you guys do a ton of I2 work, so I'll breeze through these. No 2-story openings normally, but nonetheless, they wanted this opening. They had glazing on the exterior side of the building, so they wanted some natural light coming into this waiting area there. Elevator lobbies. So we're creating some elevator hoistway smoke separation with these products. And a lot of us are probably familiar with this variation of providing elevator hoistway smoke curtains, where you have 2 magnetic devices that go all the way up to the finished ceiling, and you multiply that times however many elevator openings that you have. So in this case, it's a smoke curtain here, 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 here. And so you have 6 total smoke curtains installed in the space. That's perfectly fine to meet the smoke requirements there. The problem is that sometimes that's not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing option, and owners want to consolidate the total number of units, because what happens if, well, smoke curtain number 3 at level 4 broke. So what we do oftentimes in these applications that necessitate multiple smoke curtains at an individual hoistway or a bank of elevators, we provide 1 smoke curtain, and we provide individual egress doors through the single curtain. So it consolidates the total number of smoke curtains that are needed throughout the building. Originally, this was a 10-story building. So they needed 3 smoke curtains times 10. That was 30 total smoke curtains originally. Then they got in touch with us and they said, well, wait, you can put individual egress doors within a single curtain. That means we're going to cut the smoke curtain total by 20. That's correct. And that's not only 20 smoke curtains, that's 20 less architectural details, shop drawings, ownership meetings, installations, products that have to be maintained. So it cuts down significantly on the total number of units that are installed within the building. They bury those side guides. Remember, previously it was just those magnetic rails, but this comes with a rigid steel guide. We have that 1/4-inch guide recessed on the far side and either side as well. And then that bottom bar sits flush within your finished ceiling. They didn't decide to paint it. I don't know why. They should have painted it, but that's neither here nor there. We looked at this application a few minutes ago, just creating the elevator lobby separation as well. Smoke and draft control, same language out of chapter 30. This is the condition, except with just 2 elevator hoistways with 2 egress doors going through the single smoke curtain. And this is very atypical. Normally, this smoke curtain is fully concealed within the finished ceiling. You can't see the box. The finished ceiling's here. This is fleshed out, trimmed out, so you don't see the side guides, but nonetheless, it does give you an idea of what it looks like. This is a back of house space, so they weren't too keen on, making this nice and pretty. We can go in limited heights and widths with this product. It's about 18 feet tall, about 5 feet wide, about 12 feet tall, just a standard elevator opening there. And now we'll close our time with vertical opening separation. So there's a new provision out of the 2021 edition of the building code, specifically related to atriums in chapter 4, so section 404 of the code. And it talks about if we create a shaft enclosure vertically within a 3+ story atrium, it removes the need of having a smoke evacuation system completely. If you ever detailed an atrium and you know how costly those smoke evacs can be, they can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million. And then the ongoing maintenance, typically they require maintenance every 90 days. So to be able to remove those from a project is pretty significantly. And how that applies to this product line is what we provide are vertically coiling, in this case, D400s. We place it at every floor above the second floor. And so that once a fire were to break out, those rolling fire shutters or smoke doors would enclose the openings. These are basically just a shaft enclosure, and these meet the requirements of an opening protected within a shaft wall. So then the fire breaks out, we create this kind of plume effect, and it satisfies the code. We don't have to have a smoke evacuation system. That's fantastic. But what about in the applications where, this is a healthcare space? So they had additional requirements that necessitated them doing the smoke curtains at each floor. Normally, if it was a normal occupancy type, they just have a fire or smoke separation at the 3rd floor. But they used this concept with previously a 20-minute rated fire curtain with a reduced square footage smoke evac within the structure. So it was approved under alternate methods. This was a number of years ago, just to kind of get the wheels turning. But that's in general what we're talking about, of creating the vertically coiling separation, creating essentially a shaft enclosure vertically there, and in the 2021 code to remove smoke evac. But what if we take that same concept of having a multi-story atrium space and we create a shaft enclosure horizontally? So instead of having a vertical shaft, we're basically removing the atrium from the footprint when the fire were to break out by having structural steel doors that pass the hose string test on the tabletop plane. And then the question arises, well, is this considered an atrium anymore then? If it's only connecting 2 floors, is it an atrium? And at least we found in the DMV, a lot of code officials will say, no, it's not. It's not connecting more than 2 stories. We've got a shaft enclosure occurring on a tabletop plane. The product meets the requirements of the hose stream. It's not considered an atrium anymore. And with this product, this is a horizontal fire shutter. We, in turn, remove all 9 requirements of Section 404 in the process. And not only smoke evac, but reduced travel distances, backup generation, louvers on the exterior envelope and all of the doors, obviously the smoke evac, all of these different requirements, the 9 requirements in totality are removed by utilizing just one or however many products it takes to create a 2-floor opening. So obviously the trickle down effect of that product is significant because we save so much money in the process. On average, we save about $250,000 in utilizing this product in lieu of the 9 requirements of Section 404. And it's got a very good track record as well because this product was tested under UL 10B as in boy, hose stream test. It's a structurally, it's an integritous door that meets the hose stream test requirements that we've been talking about thus far. And this is the project that we were looking at earlier, the Alexandria City High School. So Alexandria, Virginia, down the way a little bit. Multi-story atrium space But within that atrium space, they had a 2-floor interconnecting learning stair. And they said, well, gosh, we do not want to have to deal with the smoke evac in that big open space. So what are we going to do? What they utilized was this same technology of a horizontal fire shutter. So they're closing off this 2-story opening or this 3-story opening from the rest of the facility. But what makes this a little bit different is, as opposed to it being linear, it climbs up that monument stair and fully neutralizes it in the event of a fire. So you can imagine at the far side is where the coil box is. It's tucked underneath that bulkhead or within that bulkhead right there. So that houses the coil box. It goes straight out of the pocket for about 20 feet. It turns a 28-degree curve, climbs that stair for about 18 feet, and then it fully encloses that stair. So in a fire alarm, smoke alarm, or power outage, building occupants are instructed to navigate to actual required means of egress, and this isn't factored into the egress path whatsoever. Ultimately, this saved over $250,000 in the cost. The significant life safety protection, but also life savings as well for the school district. And this is about 24 feet wide and about 64 feet long. And the greatest selling point is kind of an ancillary benefit to this product. If you've ever attended a McKeon luncheon, it's probably the 15th time you've heard the story, so apologies. But nonetheless, this is at Emily Carr University. This is a fire that broke out from an arson attack in Vancouver. So an arson got to the 4th story of this light shaft, again, lighting things on fire, throwing it down to the ground story of the building. They had just done the ribbon cutting ceremony about 3 weeks prior to everything unfolding here. It's a brand new building, $70 million. Fortunately, underneath the floor, they had these horizontal fire shutters installed. The local smoke detector tripped the deployment of the fire shutter. And the arson, well, I'm already too deep now, continued on with the play. He found a wheelbarrow. They had punch list items that they were trying to finish out. They had a wheelbarrow and all this other debris that he started throwing on top of the fire shutter. But because it's a structural steel door that meets that hose string test that we were talking about, it held up all the weight of the products thrown on top of it. So the guy was apprehended about 20 minutes after everything had transpired. And they cleaned off the debris on the fire shutter, turned the key switch on the motor, and the door was brought back into its pocket. They cut power to it, and it reclosed the space perfectly. So it was a huge, huge win for everybody involved. I mean, the mind can begin to wonder what would happen, right, if there was nothing, right? Even a Section 404 compliant atrium, you're still not going to afford the level of life safety protection by having steel over building occupants' heads. And then people typically give me pushback, not you guys. Some people will give me pushback. They say, well, Cam, you know what? We can't design a building to be safe against arson attacks, right? That's kind of ridiculous. Understandably so. But arsonry isn't too far away from what if a fire were to break out in the structure? And the way that we design buildings, I mean, look up. I mean, we have light fixtures and ductwork and all these items that are suspended from the ceiling. We're trying to get out of these buildings in a fire. Having something like this over their head is going to be a much, much safer structure, in my opinion, than even just having smoke, right? The smoke will definitely be a problem. This product is smoke rated and hourly rated fire separation and passes that hose string test that we're talking about. Then the last portion of our time, deployable draft curtains, that escalator openings and exit access stairs. This is when, we used to go to Macy's, right? You go down the escalators and that beautiful piece of plexiglass is installed within the space. Kids like me still like to do the Nerf basketball dunk right now, getting the slam dunk and those things. But this is an alternative to that. We typically see it in tenant fit outs in DC, where you have a 2-story or 3-story or 4-story interconnecting stair. And we put this product with closely placed sprinkler heads. It's not a fire rated curtain. It's not a smoke rated curtain. The only thing that plexiglass and these deployable draft curtains are there to do is just to put smoke against a sprinkler head to send the building into an alarm condition. They're not intended to do anything but that. So what this does is that it sits in a small coil box overhead and drops only in the event of a fire. So it keeps that 18 inches nice and open. My favorite project we've ever worked on in DC was with actually this product. You think that's not that big of a deal, but the gentleman who owned this company that's headquartered in DC is 6'10". Guys, I'm huge. He's a not enormous guy. And the finished ceiling height was so low in the office that they had these plexiglass draft curtains at the monument stair. He had to do this number every single day. He's like, man, if you had done this in the original project, gosh, my back would be saved by now. But unfortunately, it came out a little bit too late. We also see it at exit access stairs. So if you have a multi-story exit access stair, instead of creating a shaft enclosure, you can also do it with the draft curtains as well. But obviously we keep the nice and open, clean appearance with the deployable option there. And then this was approved under alternate methods. This is at Dulles Airport. And so instead of dropping to the normal 18 inches, we had to drop many, many feet just because of the scale and the size of Dulles. And I always like to say, could you imagine if there was plexiglass right here? Just these gigantic pieces of plexiglass that fills up that space. Thankfully, it's the upper photograph there, but that's otherwise what the design alternative would have been. And then this is a random cafe in Las Vegas. So also approved under alternate methods for the same exact reason we were just looking at. I don't do the quiz. I'm sure everybody's bummed about that. I would like to just show a couple of videos though, stuff we've done, considering I've got 10 minutes left. If you guys want to stick around, feel free. If not, thank you so much. My contact information is on all the books. And yeah, give me a shot if you have any questions. But here's some of the videos of installations we've been doing recently. Here's Choice Hotels, the one that we covered in the Lunch and Learn a few minutes ago. This video might blow your mind. Just a roll-up door going up and down. But hey, nonetheless, it was a cool project. I don't know who that guy is, so let me know if you ever think of that. I don't know who that was. Somebody asked me, oh my gosh, you guys did products at the windows too. No, those are just for the sun. But again, about a 30-foot wide open, keeps that space nice and open with the D400 there. And we have some other slides that are brought in here of just local projects that we've done and we finished in the last 12 months. So these are the steel fire doors that we talked about at the outset of our Lunch and Learn. Here's an accordion style fire shutter that's used at a horizontal exit. They needed double hinged egress here due to the code requirements. So they needed the occupant load to have two 3070 doors affixed within the curtain. Again, who is this guy? He keeps coming on slides. I don't know what he's doing. But nonetheless, double acting swing egress doors. And they did a really nice job of creating this millwork cover. So that's just a pocket cover door. And the finished person did a phenomenal job in keeping that cover door to maximum size limits. So we've tested to go at limited heights and widths with all of our products. So yeah. And this is a project we just finished in Reston not too long ago. This is at Boeing. I said that at a firm a few weeks ago. Did you say that? I don't know. I think so. No, this is at Boeing. I said at the aerospace company to keep it nice and neat, not have to be people giving me a hard time. Now, this is a side coiling fire shutter. We're probably familiar. If you connect that third story of a monument stair, you're going to have to create a shaft enclosure at one of the openings. The architectural design team said Boeing's not going to want that. And they don't want columns here and here. So we want a side coiling fire shutter that's able to keep this monument stair wide open 99.9% of the time as more of a columnless type of condition. So what they provided was the S4000, which is a side coiling unit that offers a 2¼ reveal in the finished ceiling for the head track. It's able to turn an 18-inch radius curve, which it does twice to basically create a U around the third story of this monument stair. So it's able to keep that monument stair nice and open. The other two floors are wide open, one to another, and the door system creates that separation, about 45 feet long with the double curve. And the coil box sits just behind this wall, so parallel within that wall. There's a little closet that conceals that fire shutter there. And then I have a lot of critics out there, as you can say. I'm a very controversial figure. People always like to, there's no way that fire shutter works, Cam. There's no way it does. And actually, when we were final testing this for the fire marshal, all of the trades were finishing out this stair. And they all had to be taken away so we can test this door, because obviously the stair is not able to be used while the door is operating and closing. And so I thought I was at, Caesar's Sportsbook or something. They're like, I bet you $50 thing doesn't work. Double or nothing. I mean, it was goofy what they were doing. And fortunately, we ran it about 12.5 times, and it worked every single time. So somebody lost and somebody gained a lot of money as well. But again, overall cost savings within the atrium was substantial. Utilizing that HL250. The straight run version is the H200, and the curved version is the HL250. The L is basically the shape that it normally creates, right? This is a little bit different of being able to climb that, but it's not a problem. I think what we've done as well. That's about it. Yeah. That's another slide. Appreciate y'all's time today. If you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks a lot. We have an active shooter, but that's for blast rating, military jobs. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I also sent out a Excel spreadsheet to get people's AA numbers and everything that was signed or anything, so I'll send that to you as well.
Yeah, no problem. Excellent.
Yeah, and then if you could just send me recording.
Yeah, does it save on my end? It might save on your end, because because you saved it on my computer. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's with your,
Okay, I gotcha. I'm sure it'll be straightforward.
okay,
I'll send
yeah,
it.
if you send that to me, that's.
That's in like drive, some still drive, is that good? Okay.
Yeah, just save it on, because it's just for the, the type of people.
Yeah. Anything else? I think I'm in good shape, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for your time, man. Nice meeting you. Yeah, love that. Do it again? Love it. Yeah, let's do it. I'm only in that, but it's anything. Hey, pockets will work out. Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate that, buddy.
Good one.
No, that was wrong. Spending that one stuff.
Yeah, there's okay.